the confession does not arrive with tears. It arrives with the hollow echo of a chamber emptied of its ammunition. She weaponized my love. The words are not an accusation of hate. Hate would be simpler. Hate is a foreign country with clear borders. This is more insidious. This is the violation of a native tongue. The seeker comes to Jesus holding not a knife, but the handle of a knife, the blade of which was forged from their own tenderness, now buried in their back. Love, in its divine intent, is an open hand. It is sustenance. It is the currency of heaven, meant for building, for nourishing, for binding up. To weaponize it is to take that open hand, fold it into a fist around the very gift given, and turn it into a blunt instrument. The seeker's love was not rejected. It was conscripted. It was taken into the enemy's arsenal and used against its owner. Here is how the weaponization works. The love was offered as a shelter, a promise of, "I will be your safe place." Then the loved one learned the architecture of that shelter perfectly. Where the walls were thinnest, which floorboards creaked with vulnerability, where the locks were. And in a moment of conflict or manipulation or sheer cruelty, they did not burn the shelter down. They militarized it. They used the intimate knowledge gained through the love itself to design the most effective siege. You say you love me? Then prove it by enduring this. After all I've done for you, you owe me this betrayal of your own conscience. Your compassion is your weakness, and I will exploit it to get what I want. The wound is therefore a double helix of pain. First, the primary injury, the betrayal, the unkindness, the abuse. But second, and perhaps more paralyzing, is the meta-injury. The horror that the very thing they thought was their strongest, godliest attribute, their capacity to love faithfully, was the very thing that was captured and turned into the delivery system for their own suffering. Creates a spiritual crisis. Is my love itself flawed? Is this open heart a design defect that makes me a perpetual victim? Should I never love like this again? The weaponization threatens to poison the well of love itself, making the seeker afraid of their own heart. This is where the seeker stands before Jesus, holding this terrible, twisted artifact, a love turned against itself. And they look at him, perhaps with a flicker of accusation. You told me to love. You said love covers a multitude of sins. You said it never fails. Look how it failed. Look how it was used. Jesus receives the confession. He does not flinch from the twisted artifact. He sees, in this mangled love, the shadow of another weaponization. He sees the logos, the word that was with God, the word that was God, the ultimate expression of the Father's loving heart, made flesh. And what did the world do with this perfect love incarnate? They weaponized it. They took his love for the poor and called it demonic. They took his love for truth and used it to fabricate charges. They took his love that offered his own life, and they twisted it into a sentence of capital punishment. They nailed divine love to a cross. Jesus knows what it is to have love turned into the very instrument of execution. So his first word is not a correction. It is a solidarity. I know. But then he does something crucial. He does not say, "Therefore, stop loving." He says, "Therefore, learn to love like I do." The difference is the difference between a weapon and a shield, between a resource to be plundered and a fortress that cannot be breached. The world's love, even the seeker's beautiful, earnest love, can be weaponized because it often contains a hidden wire of need. It loves hoping to be loved in return. It loves to secure a position, to avoid abandonment, to feel good about itself. This is not evil. It is human, but it is pliable, can be bent because it has something to lose. The love of Christ, which he now offers to pour into the seeker's hollowed-out heart, is of a different substance. It is agape. It is love as a deliberate, willful act of seeking the highest good of the other, regardless of their response. This love cannot be weaponized because it has already surrendered everything. Cannot be held hostage. It paid the ransom in advance on the cross. Cannot be manipulated by guilt. It operates from grace. Cannot be exploited for gain. It is pure gift. She weaponized your love, Jesus says, because your love in your hands was partly a tool for connection. Let your love, in my hands, become an unstoppable force for redemption, even for her. The healing path is a transfer of ownership. The seeker must take the mangled remains of their weaponized love and lay it at the foot of the cross, the place where weaponized love was ultimately defeated. They say, "Lord, my way of loving has been captured and used against me. I yield it. I need you to love through me with a love that cannot be corrupted." This does not mean becoming a doormat. Christ's love is fiercely protective. It sets boundaries, speaks truth, and sometimes turns over tables. But it does so from a core that is secure, filled with the Father's affirmation, "You are my beloved child," making it immune to the extortion of human approval. Slowly, the seeker learns to love from this new, fortified place. They love because Christ in them loves, not because they are desperate to be loved in return. Their love becomes less a vulnerable resource and more an unstoppable declaration. The person who weaponized it may still try, but they will find the mechanisms jammed. They cannot guilt what is grounded in grace. They cannot exploit what is freely given without strings. They cannot siege a fortress whose source is the infinite well of God. "She weaponized my love" is, in the end, a confession of a love that was, at its core, still human. The healing is the exchange of that vulnerable, beautiful, breakable human love for the indestructible, divine love of Christ, flowing through the same heart. The weapon is dismantled not by shutting down the factory, but by changing the alloy. What was once lead, usable for bullets, becomes adamant, usable for unbreakable bonds. The love that was used to wound becomes, through Christ, the very thing that heals. First the seeker, and then, miraculously, becomes a love strong enough to one day even disarm the one who held the weapon. Amen.